The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alaric, a 44-year-old software engineer in Seattle, stared out the window of our Queen Anne home, a knot tightening in my stomach. For weeks, maybe months, something had felt off with Giselle, my wife of 15 years. The easy laughter had faded, replaced by a strained politeness. Her late nights at the office had become increasingly frequent, and her explanations increasingly vague. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the pressures of her job as a marketing executive. But a nagging voice, a whisper of doubt, refused to be silenced. It started subtly. Giselle, usually meticulous about her appearance, began paying an almost obsessive level of attention to her clothes, her hair, her makeup. New dresses appeared in her closet, expensive perfumes I hadn't bought filled the bathroom. She started going to a new gym downtown, claiming the classes were more challenging. Her phone became her constant companion, clutched protectively, screen down whenever I was near. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd offer curt, dismissive answers, her eyes flitting away as if she were hiding something. The intimacy we once shared dwindled to almost nothing. We used to spend hours talking, sharing our hopes and dreams. Now we barely spoke, existing as polite roommates in a once-loving home. One evening, Giselle said she had to work late. "A big presentation," she explained, avoiding my gaze. "I probably won't be home until after midnight." I nodded, trying to mask the suspicion that gnawed at me. After she left, I tried to work, but my mind kept drifting back to Giselle, to the subtle changes I'd noticed, the growing distance between us. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Around 9 p.m., I decided to take a drive. I told myself I just needed some air, that I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew I was going to check up on her. I drove downtown toward the office building where Giselle worked. The building was mostly dark, only a few lights flickering on the upper floors. I parked across the street, watching, waiting. An hour passed, then another. Just as I was about to give up, I saw Giselle emerge from the building. She wasn't alone. A man was with her. I couldn't see his face clearly in the dim light, but I could see the way he touched her arm, the way she smiled back at him. It wasn't a professional smile. It was a warm, intimate smile, the kind she used to reserve for me. They walked down the street, stopping at a small Italian restaurant a few blocks away. I watched from across the street as they sat at a table, laughing, talking, their eyes locked on each other. The man reached across the table and took Giselle's hand. She didn't pull away. My heart hammered in my chest. A wave of nausea washed over me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I watched them for another hour, the scene playing out like a slow-motion nightmare. Finally, they left the restaurant, walking hand in hand down a side street. I couldn't follow them anymore. I turned and stumbled back to my car, my mind reeling. I drove home in a daze, the rain blurring the city lights. I sat in the living room, staring blankly at the wall, the image of Giselle holding hands with another man seared into my brain. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I only knew that my world had just shattered. The next few days were a blur of anger, confusion, and disbelief. I barely slept, barely ate. I replayed the scene in my head over and over, trying to make sense of it. How could Giselle do this to me, to us? Had our marriage been a lie? Was I so blind that I hadn't seen this coming? I confronted Giselle when she got home from work the next day. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I simply asked her, who was that man? She looked at me, her eyes widening in surprise. "What man?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Don't lie to me, Giselle," I said, my voice flat. I saw you with him last night." She hesitated for a moment, then her face crumbled. "Alaric," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "It's true, isn't it?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You're having an affair." She burst into tears, sinking onto the couch. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Who is he?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "His name is Thuron," she said, her voice muffled by tears. "He's a colleague at work." "How long?" I demanded. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated again, then whispered, 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of lies, of deceit, of betrayal. 6 months of me thinking we were happy while she was sneaking around behind my back. I felt a surge of rage, so intense it almost choked me. I wanted to scream, to break things, to lash out. But I remained silent, my anger a cold, burning fire inside me. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Why did you do this? She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. I don't know, she said, her voice trembling. I was unhappy. I felt neglected. I felt like you weren't paying attention to me anymore, neglected. I had worked tirelessly to provide for her, to give her everything she wanted. I had supported her career, celebrated her successes, comforted her during her failures. How could she say I had neglected her? That's bullshit, Giselle, I said, my voice rising. That's a pathetic excuse. You made a choice. You chose to betray me, to betray our marriage. She started crying again, burying her face in her hands. I know, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I've made a terrible mistake. I stood up, pacing the room, my mind racing. I couldn't believe this was happening. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, had betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. I need you to leave, I said, my voice trembling. I need you to leave now. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with panic. Alaric, please, she begged. Don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. It's too late, Giselle, I said, my voice cold. You broke something that can't be fixed. I can't trust you anymore. I don't even know if I can look at you anymore. She pleaded with me, begged me to reconsider, but I was adamant. I couldn't bear to be in the same room with her. I couldn't bear to look at her without feeling a wave of anger and disgust. Finally, she packed a bag and left, her sobs echoing through the empty house. I sat there for hours, alone in the darkness, the silence broken only by the sound of the rain. I felt numb, empty, like a part of me had died. The next few weeks were a living hell. I moved into the guest room, unable to sleep in the bed we had shared for so many years. I barely ate, barely slept, spending my days in a fog of grief and anger. I told a few close friends about what had happened, and they offered their support, their sympathy, their advice. But nothing could ease the pain, the sense of betrayal that consumed me. Giselle called me constantly, begging me to talk to her, to give her another chance. But I refused. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget what she had done. I started seeing a therapist, trying to process my emotions, to make sense of what had happened. She helped me to understand that Giselle's affair was not my fault, that I was not to blame. She helped me to see that I deserved better, that I deserved to be with someone who loved and respected me. As I began to heal, I started to think about the future. I knew I couldn't stay in the house we had shared. It was filled with too many memories, too much pain. I decided to sell it, to start fresh somewhere new. I also decided to file for divorce. Giselle was devastated. She begged me to reconsider, promising to do anything to win me back, but my mind was made up. I couldn't spend another day with a woman I didn't trust, a woman who had betrayed me so deeply. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a painful process, but I got through it. I sold the house and moved to Portland, Oregon, a city I had always loved. I found a new job, made new friends, and started to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to move on, to find happiness again. One day, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a phone call from a mutual friend. "Have you heard about Giselle?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "No," I said. "What happened?" "Thuron left her," she said. "He left her for another woman." I felt a pang of satisfaction, a sense of karmic justice. Giselle had destroyed our marriage for a fleeting affair, and now she was paying the price. "She's devastated," my friend continued. "She's lost her job, her apartment, everything. She's all alone." I felt a flicker of sympathy for Giselle, but it quickly faded. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. A few weeks later, I received a letter from Giselle. It was a long, rambling letter, filled with apologies, regrets, and self-pity. She wrote about how much she missed me, how much she regretted her affair, how she wished she could turn back time and undo everything. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. I read the letter, my heart unmoved. I had forgiven her in a way, but I couldn't forget. I couldn't go back. I couldn't trust her again. I threw the letter in the trash, a sense of closure washing over me. I was finally free. Free from the pain, free from the anger, free from Giselle. I had survived her betrayal, and I was stronger for it. I had learned a valuable lesson about trust, about love, about the importance of choosing the right partner. And I was determined to never make the same mistake again. Years passed. I built a good life for myself in Portland. I met someone new, a wonderful woman named Brant, who loved and respected me. We got married, bought a house, and started a family. I was finally happy, truly happy. One day I received an email from Giselle. It had been years since I had heard from her. I hesitated for a moment, then opened it. She wrote that she was living in another state, working as a waitress. She said she had never remarried, that she had never forgotten me. She apologized again for her affair, saying it was the biggest mistake of her life. She wished me well, saying she hoped I had found happiness. I replied to her email, wishing her well in return. I didn't mention Bront or my children. I simply said that I was happy and that I hoped she would find happiness too. I closed my laptop, a sense of peace settling over me. I had finally let go of the past, of the pain, of the betrayal. I had moved on, and I was grateful for the life I had built. The rain outside has stopped. The sun is shining, casting a warm glow over the city. I look out the window, grateful for the life I have, for the love I share with Bront, for the family we have created. Giselle's betrayal was a painful chapter in my life, but it was also a catalyst for change, for growth, for happiness. I am not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by how I responded to it, and I am proud of the man I have become. I learned that even after the most devastating betrayal, it is possible to heal, to forgive, and to find love again. It takes time, it takes courage, and it takes a willingness to let go of the past, but it is possible, and it is worth it. Remember, dear reader, that your worth is not determined by the actions of others. You deserve to be loved and respected. And if someone betrays you, don't let it define you. Rise above it, learn from it, and move on to a brighter future. Your happiness is waiting for you.